Hey there, fellow food lovers. Welcome to another exciting culinary adventure. Ever crave that bakery fresh bread but dread the time and effort it takes to make it from scratch? We all know the feeling of wanting that warm, delicious loaf but not having the hours to spare. Well, I've got a fantastic solution for you: atomic bread in a jar. Yes, you heard that right, bread in a jar. It's simple, it's convenient, and the best part? You don't need to be a master baker to pull this off. Imagine having fresh bread ready whenever you want, without the hassle. This bread stays fresh for up to a year. That's right, a whole year of delicious, ready-to-eat bread at your fingertips. Yes, you heard that right, a year. No more worrying about stale bread or last-minute trips to the store. This isn't your ordinary bread recipe. We're talking about a unique blend of ingredients and a special process that makes this bread stand out. This is about harnessing the power of time and a few simple ingredients to create something truly special. With just flour, yeast, water, and a bit of patience, you can create a masterpiece. We're talking about fluffy, flavorful bread that's always ready when you are. Intrigued? Let's get started. First, gather your ingredients: flour, yeast, salt, and water. Mix them together until you have a smooth dough. Knead the dough for about 10 minutes until it's elastic and smooth. This step is crucial for developing the gluten, which gives the bread its structure. Once your dough is ready, place it into a clean mason jar. Make sure to leave some space at the top for the dough to rise. Seal the jar tightly. Now here's where the magic happens. Let the jar sit at room temperature for about 12 hours. You'll see the dough rise and fill the jar. This slow fermentation process is what gives the bread its incredible flavor. After the initial rise, you can store the jar in your pantry. Whenever you're ready for fresh bread, simply take out the jar, and you're good to go. When you're ready to bake, open the jar, take out the dough, and shape it into a loaf. Let it rise for another hour or so. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, 190 degrees Celsius, and bake the loaf for about 35 minutes, or until it's golden brown and sounds hollow when tapped. And there you have it. Fresh, bakery-quality bread right from your own kitchen. It's that easy. Enjoy the delicious homemade taste without the hassle. Give it a try and let us know how it turns out. Happy baking, happy. Now, before we dive into the dough, let's talk about yeast. Yeast is a fascinating microorganism, a type of fungus that plays a crucial role in baking. It's what transforms a simple mixture of flour and water into a loaf of bread. Without yeast, our bread would be flat and dense, lacking the delightful texture and flavor we all love. It's the heart and soul of our atomic bread, the key ingredient that breathes life into our dough. When you bite into a slice of freshly baked bread, it's the yeast that has worked its magic to create that perfect crumb and airy texture. The yeast ferments the sugars in the dough, producing carbon dioxide gas that gets trapped in the gluten network, causing the dough to rise. The tiny powerhouse that makes our bread rise and gives it that airy texture. Watching the dough rise is like witnessing a small miracle. The yeast cells are busy at work, multiplying and producing gas bubbles that expand the dough. This process not only gives the bread its volume, but also contributes to its flavor and aroma. For this recipe, we're using active dry yeast. Active dry yeast is a convenient and reliable choice for home bakers. It's dehydrated, which means it has a longer shelf life and can be stored at room temperature. When you're ready to bake, you simply need to rehydrate it to activate the yeast cells. Don't be intimidated by the word active. It just means that the yeast is in a dormant state and needs to be awakened before it can start working. This is a simple process that involves mixing the yeast with warm water and a bit of sugar. It simply means we need to wake it up with a little warm water and a touch of sugar. The warm water provides the right environment for the yeast to come back to life, while the sugar acts as food for the yeast, giving it the energy it needs to start fermenting. Think of it as a gentle nudge to get those yeast cells energized and ready to work their magic. As the yeast begins to bubble and froth, you can see it coming to life, ready to transform your dough into a beautiful loaf of bread. This step is crucial because it ensures that the yeast is active and capable of leavening the dough. So, take your time and enjoy the process, knowing that you're setting the stage for a delicious homemade bread. With our yeast activated, it's time to build our dough. We'll start with the backbone of any good bread flour. All-purpose flour works great here, but feel free to experiment with whole wheat or bread flour for a different flavor and texture. Next, we'll add in some salt for flavor and a touch of sweetness with honey or sugar. Remember, baking is all about balance. Now, slowly combine our dry ingredients with the activated yeast mixture. This is where the real fun begins, kneading the dough. Here's where things get interesting. Instead of traditional loaf pans, we're using jars. Mason jars are perfect for this, but any oven-safe jar with a tight-fitting lid will do. Make sure your jars are clean and dry. We don't want any unexpected surprises during the baking process. Now, gently place your kneaded dough into the jars, filling them about halfway. Leave some room for the dough to rise. Remember, we're dealing with atomic power here. Section 5. The waiting game. Rest and rise. Patience, my friends. This is where we let time work its magic. Cover your jars loosely with lids and let the dough rise in a warm place for at least an hour or until it's doubled in size. This step is crucial. It allows the yeast to do its job, creating air pockets that result in a light and fluffy texture. Section 6. Baking bonanza, from oven to table. All right, baking time. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Once preheated, carefully place your jars on a baking sheet and bake for about 30 to 35 minutes or until the bread is golden brown and sounds hollow when tapped. The beauty of baking in jars is that the bread steams inside, creating a moist and tender crumb. Plus, the jars act as mini ovens, ensuring even baking throughout. Section 7. Sealing the deal. Freshness for months. Here's the secret to atomic bread's longevity. As soon as the jars are out of the oven, tighten the lids while they're still hot. This creates a vacuum seal as the bread cools. This seal locks in moisture and prevents spoilage, keeping your bread fresh for months. Can you imagine having fresh, homemade bread at your fingertips whenever you want? That's the power of atomic bread. Section 8. A feast for the senses. Imagine this. You open a jar of atomic bread and the aroma of freshly baked goodness fills your kitchen. The scent is intoxicating, a blend of warm, yeasty notes with a hint of sweetness that instantly makes your mouth water. It's like a warm hug in the form of a smell, wrapping you in comfort and nostalgia. The bread is soft, slightly sweet, with a hint of yeastiness. Each slice is a perfect balance of texture and flavor, with a crust that's just the right amount of crisp. The inside is fluffy and light, almost cloud-like, making every bite a delightful experience. You can see the fine texture of the bread, with tiny air pockets that give it that perfect chewiness. It's perfect on its own, toasted with butter, or as a side for your favorite soup or stew. The possibilities are endless. Imagine pairing it with a rich, creamy tomato soup, where the bread soaks up the flavors and adds a satisfying crunch. Or perhaps with a hearty beef stew, where the bread serves as the perfect vessel to scoop up every last bit of the savory broth. You can even get creative and use it as a base for bruschetta, topped with fresh tomatoes, basil, and a drizzle of balsamic glaze. And the best part, you can enjoy this homemade goodness anytime, without the hassle of traditional baking. No need to knead the dough for hours or wait for it to rise. This bread is ready when you are, making it the ultimate convenience food. Whether you're a seasoned baker or a complete novice, you'll find that making this bread is a breeze. Just a few simple steps, and you'll have a loaf that's ready to impress. It's convenient, it's delicious, and it's sure to impress your friends and family. Imagine the look on their faces when you serve them a slice of this homemade bread, still warm from the jar. They'll be amazed at your culinary skills and delighted by the taste. It's the perfect addition to any meal, whether it's a casual family dinner or a special gathering with friends. So go ahead, treat yourself and your loved ones to a feast for the senses with this incredible bread. Section 9. Join the atomic bread revolution. So, are you ready to experience the magic of atomic bread? Give this recipe a try and let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your experiences, variations, and taste testing adventures. Happy baking!